The night was supposed to be peaceful. The little house in the suburbs of California was quiet, the street lamps outside glowing dimly. Inside, Sophia Bennett carefully placed her hands on her belly. She was only a few months pregnant, and though her body ached from long shifts as a nurse in Los Angeles, her heart was filled with hope. She whispered to her unborn baby, "You'll be loved. I promise." But not everyone shared her hope. Her husband, Ryan Miller, had grown colder each day. He had once been charming, the kind of man who laughed loudly and promised her the world. Now, his laughter was reserved for another woman, Vanessa Lopez. Vanessa was cunning, glamorous, and full of venom. She whispered poison into Ryan's ear, making him doubt his wife's loyalty. That evening, Sophia had prepared a simple dinner. She wanted to share the good news. She had seen the baby's heartbeat during her shift at the hospital. Her eyes sparkled with anticipation, waiting for Ryan to come home. But when the front door slammed open, she knew something was wrong. Ryan staggered in, the smell of alcohol thick around him. His eyes were dark, filled with anger. "Whose child is it, Sophia?" he demanded, his voice sharp like broken glass. Sophia froze. "What are you talking about?" "It's yours, Ryan. This is our baby." But Ryan didn't believe her. Vanessa's lies echoed in his head. He had been told that Sophia was unfaithful, that the baby she carried was not his. Rage consumed him. He grabbed the wooden stick he used to fix the fence and lifted it high. Sophia's heart raced. She stepped back, clutching her stomach. "Please, Ryan, don't. I'm carrying your child." Her voice trembled, her eyes begging for mercy. The stick came down with a brutal force, striking her shoulder. Pain exploded through her body. She cried out, stumbling to the floor, still holding her belly. Tears blurred her vision. "Ryan, stop! Please, for the baby's sake." But he struck again, blind with jealousy. To him, the lies had become truth. Each blow was heavier, fueled by betrayal he imagined but never proved. Sophia tried to shield her stomach with her arms, every part of her desperate to protect the fragile life inside. Her body shook with agony, but her spirit clung to one thing: survival. She had to live for her baby. She had to endure. She whispered through sobs, "Stay with me, little one. Stay strong." Suddenly, her strength gave out. Her head spun, the room turned black, and she collapsed to the floor. The last thing she heard was Ryan's voice, dripping with venom. "You'll regret lying to me." Blood trickled from her lip, her breath shallow. Somewhere in the neighborhood, a light flicked on. A neighbor had heard the cries, the thuds, the violence. They picked up the phone and dialed 911. But what neither Ryan nor Vanessa knew was that this single phone call would set in motion a storm that would destroy everything they thought they controlled. Sophia Bennett had never imagined her life would spiral into such darkness. She was 28 years old, a nurse at Los Angeles General Hospital. Every morning, before the sun rose, she tied her hair back, slipped into her scrubs, and walked through the long hospital halls with a smile. Patients adored her for her gentle hands and her kind eyes. She was the type of woman who stayed after her shift just to hold the hand of a lonely patient. Her heart was made of compassion, and everyone could see it, except the man she loved most. Sophia had married Ryan Miller 5 years ago. Back then, he was a struggling mechanic with big dreams. She believed in him, supported him, even worked double shifts so he could open his own auto shop. Her friends often told her she was too selfless, but Sophia only laughed and said, "That's what love is." For years, she poured her energy into their marriage, never once questioning her role as his partner, his supporter, his wife. But things changed when Vanessa Lopez entered Ryan's life. Sophia didn't know the full truth at first. She only noticed Ryan staying out later, ignoring her texts, brushing off her worries. She would wait by the window at night, her hands folded over her growing belly, hoping he'd come home with a smile like before. Instead, he returned with bitterness in his voice, criticizing her cooking, mocking her long hours at the hospital. Even in those painful moments, Sophia told herself to endure. She reminded herself of the child inside her, the little heartbeat she had seen on the ultrasound screen. She whispered promises to her unborn baby. "Mommy will protect you. Mommy will never give up." It was her way of keeping faith, even as her marriage crumbled. Sophia's strength had always come from her family. She was the youngest of 4 siblings, and though she lived in California with Ryan, Her three older brothers were miles away in New York, San Francisco, and Silicon Valley. Ethan, the eldest, was powerful and strict, running one of the biggest real estate companies in the country. Matthew, the second brother, was brilliant in finance, calm and calculating. Lucas, the youngest brother before her, was bold, passionate, and a leader in the world of technology. They were busy men, yet in Sophia's heart, she always believed they would come if she truly needed them. But Sophia never told them about the bruises. She never mentioned the nights she cried herself to sleep. She was ashamed. She thought if she stayed quiet, things would get better. She wanted to believe Ryan would return to the man she once loved. And so Sophia carried her secret pain, hiding the marks under long sleeves, painting on smiles at work, convincing everyone she was fine. Her coworkers praised her strength, but no one knew the truth. Inside, she was breaking. That night, as she lay unconscious on the living room floor, the phone call from a neighbor would bring flashing red and blue lights to her doorstep. And once the ambulance doors opened, her brothers would finally discover the nightmare their baby sister had been living in silence. The flashing red and blue lights lit up the quiet street in suburban California. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, whispering in shock as paramedics rushed into the small, but worn-down house. Sophia Bennett lay on the living room floor, her skin pale, her lips trembling, her arms wrapped tightly around her belly. The wooden stick Ryan had used still rested in the corner, a silent witness to the cruelty that had unfolded. Inside the ambulance, Sophia's breathing was shallow. A paramedic pressed an oxygen mask over her face, while another checked for signs of the baby's heartbeat. "She's pregnant," one of them said urgently. "We need to get her to Los Angeles General right now." The words echoed in the narrow space, a chilling reminder that 2 lives were at risk, not just one. As the vehicle sped down the freeway, Sophia drifted in and out of consciousness. The sirens wailed, but inside her mind there was only silence. She thought of her baby, the tiny heartbeat she had seen on the screen. She thought of the promise she had made, to protect, to endure. She whispered faintly, almost inaudible, "Stay with me, little one, please." Back at the house, Ryan stood at the doorway, his fists clenched, his chest heaving. He didn't follow the ambulance. Instead, Vanessa Lopez appeared from the shadows. She placed a hand on his arm, her voice smooth and manipulative. "You did the right thing, Ryan. She's been lying to you all along. That child isn't yours. We'll build a better life together, without her." Her words wrapped around him like chains, pulling him deeper into her web of deceit. Meanwhile, Los Angeles General Hospital came alive with urgency. Nurses and doctors rushed Sophia into the emergency ward. It was ironic, almost cruel, that this was the very hospital where she worked, where she had comforted countless patients. Now she lay on one of those gurneys, fragile and broken. The nurses recognized her immediately. "It's Sophia. She's one of us." Their voices carried a mix of shock and sorrow. Hours passed under the harsh fluorescent lights. Doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize her, monitoring both mother and child. The night dragged on, heavy with uncertainty. Outside the hospital room, whispers filled the halls as staff exchanged worried glances. And miles away across the country, 3 powerful men were about to have their lives disrupted. Ethan Bennett, in his towering office overlooking New York City, was in the middle of a late-night meeting when his phone rang. Matthew Bennett, reviewing financial reports in San Francisco, glanced at his buzzing phone with a frown. Lucas Bennett, still coding at his Silicon Valley headquarters, paused when he saw the caller ID. Each brother answered, and each heard the same words. "Your sister, Sophia, she's in the hospital. She was attacked." In that single moment, the air shifted. Meetings were abandoned, papers left scattered, computer screens dimmed. The brothers exchanged no words between them. Yet each knew exactly what had to be done. By sunrise, 3 of the most powerful CEOs in America would be on planes, heading straight to Los Angeles, and their wrath would shake everything Ryan and Vanessa thought they had secured. Ryan Miller had not always been a cruel man. Once, he was a struggling mechanic with calloused hands and a dream to open his own auto shop. Back then, Sophia believed in him so deeply that she worked endless hours at the hospital to fund his dream. She thought love was sacrifice, and she gave him everything she had. For a while, Ryan worked hard, grateful for the woman by his side. But success never truly arrived. His auto shop struggled. Bills piled up. Customers went to bigger, fancier places, and his pride began to rot. Instead of pushing harder, Ryan turned bitter. He saw Sophia's steady paycheck as a reminder that she was stronger than him, more respected than him. His insecurities grew like a shadow he could not escape. That was when Vanessa Lopez entered his life. Vanessa was everything Sophia was not, at least in Ryan's eyes. She was bold, unapologetic, and dangerously charming. She managed a trendy bar downtown where the music was loud and the nights never ended. Ryan stumbled into that bar one night, drowning his frustration in cheap whiskey. Vanessa spotted him instantly, a broken man desperate for validation. She played her role flawlessly. She listened to his complaints, stroked his ego, and whispered in his ear that he deserved more than a plain wife tied down by scrubs and a growing belly. "You're a man meant for bigger things, Ryan," she purred, her hand lingering on his arm. "Sophia will only drag you down. She doesn't understand you the way I do." Ryan, hungry for attention and blinded by resentment, fell under her spell. Soon, his nights at the bar became frequent. His excuses to Sophia became cruel lies. Vanessa knew exactly how to feed his weakness. She told him Sophia was hiding secrets, that the baby she carried might not be his. It was a lie with no proof, but Ryan clung to it because it gave him a reason to justify his betrayal. Behind closed doors, Vanessa fueled his rage. She reminded him of his failures, twisting them until he believed Sophia was to blame. She planted seeds of jealousy, telling him Sophia worked late shifts to meet another man. Ryan's love turned into suspicion, suspicion into anger, and anger into violence. Yet Vanessa's plan was not driven by love, it was driven by ambition. She saw Ryan as a tool, a man she could control. Through him, she dreamed of securing wealth and stability, but she underestimated one thing: the strength of Sophia's family. After the ambulance carried Sophia away, Ryan sat in the living room, his hands trembling, his mind clouded. Vanessa stood behind him, her lips curling into a cold smile. "Don't worry, baby," she said softly. "Once she's out of the picture, everything you own will be ours. We'll finally be free." Ryan nodded, though unease flickered in his eyes. Somewhere deep inside, he knew he had crossed a line he could never undo. What neither of them realized was that their lies and cruelty had awakened a storm, and it was coming for them faster than they could imagine. The morning after Sophia was admitted to Los Angeles General Hospital, news spread quickly among friends, neighbors, and coworkers. People whispered in shock, trying to piece together what had happened. Sophia lay in her hospital bed, weak but conscious, her face marked with bruises and her eyes swollen from tears. She avoided mirrors. She couldn't bear to see the evidence of Ryan's rage. Her coworkers visited, leaving flowers and cards. They tried to comfort her, but Sophia forced a smile, insisting she was fine. Deep down, she was terrified. What would Ryan do next? Would he come back? Would he hurt her again? She didn't know. All she knew was that her child's heartbeat still flickered strong inside her belly, and that gave her a reason to keep breathing. But Ryan had no shame. While Sophia healed quietly in the hospital, Ryan and Vanessa flaunted their relationship in public. They were seen at a busy diner in downtown Los Angeles, Vanessa's hand resting boldly on Ryan's, her laughter loud enough to turn heads. People in the community knew Ryan was married. They knew Sophia. And yet Ryan carried on as if his wife didn't exist, as if her suffering was nothing. The whispers grew crueler. Maybe Sophia really cheated, some said, repeating Vanessa's lies. Why else would Ryan act this way? The gossip reached Sophia's ears through mutual acquaintances, cutting deeper than any wound on her body. She wanted to scream the truth, that she had been faithful, that she had given Ryan everything. But her voice felt stolen, smothered by shame. One evening, Sophia's worst fear came true. Vanessa arranged a scene at the very hospital where Sophia worked. She walked in, dressed in a tight red dress, holding Ryan's arm proudly. Their entrance was deliberate, their smiles mocking. Nurses and patients stared in shock as Vanessa leaned close to Ryan and said loudly, "You don't need to worry about liars anymore. You have me now." Sophia, sitting quietly in a wheelchair near the nurse's station, froze. Her coworkers glanced at her, their eyes full of pity. Her heart cracked under the weight of humiliation. She felt the walls closing in, the air suffocating. For Ryan to betray her was one thing, But to parade Vanessa in front of her colleagues, in the place she had dedicated her life to, was another wound entirely. Tears burned Sophia's eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She pushed her wheelchair slowly back toward her room, each movement heavy with sorrow. Behind her, Vanessa's laughter echoed, sharp and cruel. Ryan didn't even look her way. That night, alone in her hospital room, Sophia finally broke down. She clutched her belly and sobbed silently, whispering apologies to her unborn child. "I'm so sorry you have to start life like this," she cried. "But I promise, I won't let them win. Not forever." Unbeknownst to her, across the country, 3 powerful men were packing their bags, leaving their offices and boarding planes. And when Ethan, Matthew, and Lucas Bennett arrived in Los Angeles, Ryan and Vanessa would discover that their public betrayal had just declared war. The nights inside Los Angeles General Hospital were long, filled with the steady hum of machines and the quiet shuffle of nurses moving between rooms. For most patients, the hospital was a place of healing, a place of hope. But for Sophia Bennett, her room felt like a prison of despair. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of Ryan's betrayal. His voice accusing her of infidelity, his fists tightening around the stick, the sharp sting of pain as wood struck flesh, and worst of all, the sound of his footsteps leaving her as she bled and begged. The man she had sacrificed everything for had chosen another woman and left her broken. During the day, Sophia forced a brave face for the nurses she once called colleagues. She smiled weakly when they brought her meals, nodded politely when they whispered their support. But the moment the door closed, the mask fell. She wept into her pillow, her sobs muffled so no one would hear. Her greatest fear was not for herself, it was for the tiny life inside her. Each time her stomach fluttered, each time she felt the faintest movement, she clung to it. "Please stay with me," she whispered through tears. "You're all I have left." Yet doubts consumed her. Could she raise a child alone? Could she protect her baby from a man like Ryan, who now saw her as an enemy? Shame ate away at her. She thought of her brothers, Ethan, Matthew, and Lucas, but pride kept her silent. She didn't want them to see her as weak, as a failure. She convinced herself that if she admitted the truth, it would mean she had lost everything. One evening, a kind nurse named Angela sat at her bedside. "Sophia," she said gently, "you don't have to go through this alone. You have family, don't you? Call them." Sophia shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "They're busy, they're powerful men. They have their own lives. I can't be a burden." Angela placed a hand over hers. "A burden? No, honey. You're their sister. If they knew what was happening to you, they would move mountains to protect you." But Sophia only turned away, her heart heavy with doubt. When the lights dimmed and the hospital halls grew quiet, she broke again. She clutched her belly and whispered into the silence, "I can't fight them. I'm too weak. Maybe Ryan was right. Maybe I'm nothing." Her tears soaked the pillow. Her body shook with the weight of loneliness. For the first time, Sophia considered giving up. The thought terrified her, but exhaustion pressed in. Her spirit was fraying, her hope unraveling. And then, in the dead of night, her phone buzzed on the bedside table. Weakly, she reached for it. The caller ID made her heart stop. It was Ethan Bennett, her eldest brother. And once he heard her broken voice, nothing in Ryan and Vanessa's world would ever be the same again. The call lasted less than 2 minutes, but it was enough to shake Ethan Bennett to his core. His baby sister's voice, once filled with warmth and laughter, now trembled with fear. She tried to downplay it, whispering, "I'm fine, Ethan. Don't worry." But her weak sobs betrayed the truth. For the first time, Ethan heard the sound of a woman broken, and it ignited something fierce inside him. Within hours, the Bennett brothers were in motion. Ethan, the eldest, left his skyscraper office in New York City, where he ruled the real estate world. His assistant tried to remind him of back-to-back meetings, but Ethan only snapped, "Cancel everything. My sister needs me." He booked the earliest private flight to Los Angeles, his jaw set, his eyes burning with determination. In San Francisco, Matthew Bennett closed his laptop mid-meeting. His investors watched in shock as he stood abruptly. "Family emergency," he said, his voice cold. "I'll be gone until further notice." Known for his calm strategies and flawless control, Matthew rarely revealed emotion. But that night, his face betrayed a storm no one had ever seen. And in Silicon Valley, Lucas Bennett was coding late into the night when his phone rang. The youngest brother, quick-tempered and passionate, nearly broke his desk in half when he heard Sophia's condition. "He hurt her?" Lucas shouted, his voice shaking with rage. "He dared to touch her?" Without hesitation, he was on the phone booking his own flight. "Tell Ethan I'll meet him in LA," he said. By sunrise, the three brothers landed at Los Angeles International Airport. Though they each arrived from different corners of the country, their steps matched in perfect unison as they walked through the terminal. Their presence drew stares. Three powerful men, sharply dressed, their expressions carved from stone. They weren't just CEOs tonight, they were brothers on a mission. At Los Angeles General Hospital, Sophia lay in her bed, staring out the window, lost in her thoughts. She didn't expect them to come. She had convinced herself her brothers were too busy, too far away. But then, the door burst open. Ethan entered first, his towering frame filling the room. His eyes softened when they landed on his sister, but his hands clenched at the sight of her bruises. "Who did this to you?" he demanded, though he already knew. Matthew followed, placing a steady hand on Sophia's arm. "You should have called us sooner," he said quietly, his calm voice laced with pain. Lucas was last, his eyes brimming with tears and fury. He knelt by her side, pressing his forehead against her hand. "Sophie, my God, what did he do to you?" Tears streamed down Sophia's face as she tried to smile. "I didn't want to bother you. You all have your own lives." Ethan cut her off, his voice sharp. "You are our life." The brothers surrounded her, forming a shield. For the first time in weeks, Sophia felt safe. Yet deep inside, fear lingered. Because Ryan was still out there, and Vanessa was still whispering her poison. And when the Bennetts confronted Ryan face to face, the battle lines between loyalty and betrayal would be drawn in fire. The hospital room was quiet after the initial storm of reunion. Sophia lay propped against the pillows, her brothers gathered around her like guardians. Ethan paced by the window, his broad shoulders tense. Matthew sat in the corner, notebook in hand, already sketching plans like he was preparing for war. Lucas stayed closest to Sophia, refusing to let go of her hand, as if his grip alone could keep her safe. For a long while, no one spoke. Then Ethan broke the silence. "I need you to tell us everything," he said firmly. His voice carried the weight of command, the kind that made boardrooms fall silent. But when his eyes landed on Sophia, they softened. "No more hiding. We can't protect you if we don't know the truth." Sophia hesitated, tears welling up. Shame burned in her chest. She didn't want her brothers to see her as weak. But looking into their faces, she realized hiding had nearly cost her and her baby their lives. So she told them. She told them about Ryan's drinking, the late nights at Vanessa's bar, the lies, the accusations. She confessed about the beatings, about the night he struck her with the stick. Each word was like ripping open a wound, but she pushed through, her voice trembling yet steady. By the time she finished, Lucas was shaking with rage. "I'll kill him," he spat, his fists slamming against the bedrail. "I swear I'll—" "Enough," Ethan interrupted, though his own jaw was clenched so tight it looked painful. "We don't act out of rage, we act with precision." Matthew leaned forward, his voice calm but sharp. "Ryan isn't the only problem. Vanessa's dangerous too. She's manipulative, and she's feeding him lies. If we go after him without exposing her, they'll spin the story against Sophia. We need proof." Sophia's voice was barely above a whisper. "But what if it's too late? What if he takes everything? He said he wants a divorce. He said I'll be left with nothing." Ethan's eyes darkened. "He won't take anything. Not your home, not your dignity, not your child. He thinks you're alone, Sophie. He thinks you're weak. He has no idea who your family is." Lucas squeezed her hand tighter. "We'll make him regret the day he ever touched you." Matthew tapped his pen against the notebook. "First step, gather evidence, financial records, witness statements, medical reports. If Vanessa's been manipulating Ryan, there will be a trail. Second step, public exposure. Ryan cares about appearances. When we destroy his image, we destroy his power." Sophia looked at her brothers, her tears falling freely now, not from despair, but from the overwhelming force of their protection. For the first time in weeks, she felt the faint spark of hope flicker inside her. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. His voice was low, steady, unyielding. "Rest now, Sophie. Let us carry this fight. You've suffered enough." But even as Sophia drifted into sleep, the brothers exchanged looks. They knew Ryan and Vanessa wouldn't surrender quietly. And when the Bennetts made their first move against Ryan, the retaliation would come faster and crueler than anyone expected. The hospital had barely quieted after the Bennett's arrival when Ryan Miller made his move. The man who had once been Sophia's husband of 5 years now stood outside the hospital doors, his arm draped arrogantly around Vanessa Lopez. He wore a smirk, the kind of smirk that came from believing he had already won. Inside, Sophia's brothers were discussing their next steps when a nurse appeared at the door. "There's someone here to see Sophia," she said cautiously, her eyes flicking nervously toward the hallway. Ethan's sharp gaze caught her hesitation instantly. "Who?" he demanded. "Her husband," the nurse whispered. Sophia's heart clenched. Her hands trembled against the sheets. The word husband now felt like poison. She shook her head weakly. "I don't want to see him." But before anyone could stop him, Ryan barged into the room, Vanessa trailing behind like a snake with painted lips. The air turned heavy, tense. Ethan stepped forward immediately, his towering presence blocking Ryan's path. "You have no right to be here," Ethan growled. Ryan sneered. "She's still my wife, isn't she? I have every right." His eyes flicked to Sophia, cold and unfeeling. "Don't act like you're the victim here, Sophia. Everyone knows the truth. That baby isn't mine." Sophia gasped, her face crumpling with pain. "How can you say that? Ryan, I've never betrayed you." Vanessa leaned into him, her voice dripping with mock sympathy. "Poor Ryan. Imagine being tricked by the woman you trusted most. But don't worry, baby, you won't have to deal with her much longer." Lucas's temper snapped. He lunged forward, fists clenched, but Matthew grabbed his arm, pulling him back. "Not here," Matthew hissed. "Not yet." Ryan smirked, mistaking restraint for weakness. He pulled a folded paper from his jacket and tossed it onto Sophia's bed. "I'm filing for divorce. Sign it. You'll get nothing. No house, no money, no car. I'll even fight for custody just to make sure you're left with nothing." Sophia stared at the papers, her body trembling. She pressed a hand protectively against her belly, fear washing over her like icy water. You wouldn't take my baby." Ryan's smile widened. "Watch me." For a moment, the room was filled with silence so heavy it could crush bones. Then Ethan stepped forward, his voice low, dangerous. "You've made the biggest mistake of your life." Ryan laughed, but his voice wavered slightly. "What, you think you can scare me? I'm not afraid of you or your money. Sophia belongs to me, and she always will." Ethan leaned closer, his eyes burning with fire. "No, she belongs to no one. And if you try to take her child, you'll face consequences you can't even imagine." Vanessa tugged at Ryan's arm, sensing the storm in the room. "Come on, Ryan, let's leave. They'll see soon enough they can't stop us." Ryan gave Sophia one last glance, filled with cold hatred. "Sign the papers, or I'll make sure you regret it." What Ryan didn't know was that the Bennetts were already preparing a trap, and soon his threats would explode back in his face. The hospital room still vibrated with tension after Ryan's cruel visit. The divorce papers sat untouched on the nightstand, a venomous reminder of his threats. Sophia leaned back against her pillows, her body weak but her spirit flickering with the faintest flame of hope. For once she wasn't alone. Her brothers had returned, and the fire in their eyes promised justice. That night, when Sophia drifted into a restless sleep, the Bennett brothers gathered in the hospital's quiet family lounge. The sterile white walls and dim lights did little to soften the storm brewing among them. Ethan stood with arms crossed, his jaw tight. Matthew sat at the table, pen and paper before him, every move deliberate. Lucas paced restlessly, fists clenched, energy crackling like a live wire. Ethan broke the silence first. "Ryan thinks he can destroy her life with a piece of paper. He doesn't know who he's dealing with." His voice was steady, but the fury underneath was unmistakable. Matthew nodded. "We need to build a case that crushes him completely. Not just against Ryan, Vanessa too. She's been fueling this. If we don't expose her, she'll slither away untouched." He tapped his pen against the notebook, outlining steps. Financial records, witnesses, medical reports, surveillance footage from that bar. We'll dig until there's nothing left of their lies. Lucas slammed his fist against the wall. "I don't want to wait for paperwork." He hit her, Matt. "He could have killed her, and the baby. Why don't we drag him out of that bar and make him pay right now?" Ethan's sharp gaze cut through the room. "Because that's exactly what he wants. a public fight, a scandal we can't control. No, we do this smart. We take everything from him, piece by piece, until he's begging for mercy. Lucas's chest rose and fell heavily, but he finally nodded. Fine, but I swear the second he comes near her again, I won't hold back. Matthew continued, his mind racing ahead. I'll hire private investigators. We'll trace every dollar Ryan has spent, every bill he hasn't paid, every shady deal Vanessa's tied to. People like them always leave trails. We just have to follow the smoke to the fire. Ethan's eyes narrowed. And once we have the evidence, we'll go public. Ryan cares about appearances. His entire pride rests on being seen as the strong, faithful husband and hardworking man. When we expose the truth, that he's a violent adulterer manipulated by his mistress, his reputation will collapse. And with it, his leverage in court. The brothers exchanged looks, united by a shared purpose. This wasn't just about protecting Sophia anymore. It was about making sure Ryan and Vanessa never harmed her, or anyone again. Lucas exhaled, his voice low but steady. We'll end this. For her. For the baby. Ethan placed a firm hand on his youngest brother's shoulder. Then it settled. Tomorrow won't see us coming. The plan was in motion. The trap was set. But while the Bennetts prepared their silent war, Vanessa was already scheming her own counterattack. And hers would strike where Sophia least expected. For days, Sophia remained in the hospital, her body slowly healing, but her spirit still fragile. Her brothers kept watch, ensuring Ryan and Vanessa stayed far away. Ethan managed calls with lawyers, Matthew tracked financial leads, and Lucas refused to leave her side. The Bennetts were building their case with quiet precision, but Ryan Miller was not a man to sit idly by. Vanessa, ever cunning, whispered in his ear late at night, "If you keep fighting her openly, you'll lose everything. The brothers are too powerful. But if you play the victim, if you pretend to change, she might drop her guard. That's when we strike." Ryan hated the idea of bowing his head, but Vanessa's plan made sense. Sophia's greatest weakness was her heart. She was kind, forgiving, and desperate to believe in love. If he could slip back into her trust, even for a moment, he could trap her into signing away her rights. And so, Ryan transformed himself into an actor. He showed up at the hospital one quiet afternoon, dressed in a clean shirt, his hair neatly combed, a bouquet of lilies in his hands. He looked every bit the repentant husband. The nurse at the front desk frowned. "You shouldn't be here." "I just want to apologize," Ryan said softly, his eyes lowered. "Please, let me see her." Inside Sophia's room, Lucas nearly leapt to his feet when Ryan entered, but Sophia raised a trembling hand. "Wait." Her heart skipped. She had never seen Ryan look so humble. The flowers shook slightly in his grip as he approached the bed. "Sophie," he whispered, using the name he hadn't spoken in months. "I'm sorry. For everything. I was lost. Vanessa, she twisted me. I don't know what I was thinking. Please forgive me. Let me come home." Tears welled in Sophia's eyes. Her heart warred with her mind. She remembered the blows, the insults, the betrayal, but she also remembered the man she once loved, the man she had believed in. Could he really be changing? Could her baby still have a father? Lucas snarled. "You think we'll believe this act? Get out before I throw you out." But Ryan kept his eyes on Sophia, his voice breaking. "I'll go to counseling. I'll quit drinking. I'll do whatever it takes. I just want my family back. Please, Sophie." Sophia's lips trembled. The room spun with doubt. Her brother's warnings echoed in her mind, yet her heart begged for hope. She whispered, "Ryan, I don't know if I can trust you." Ryan fell to his knees beside her bed, tears glistening in his eyes, tears carefully rehearsed. He pressed the bouquet into her hands. "Let me prove it. One chance, that's all I ask." Matthew and Ethan exchanged sharp looks. They saw through the performance. But Sophia's grip on the flowers tightened, her chest heaving with silent conflict. And as Sophia considered his plea, she didn't realize that hidden inside the bouquet was Ryan's first step in a cruel new scheme. The lilies Ryan brought to Sophia's room sat in a glass vase by her bedside. Their white petals glowed under the soft hospital light, innocent to the eye, but tainted by the man who delivered them. To Sophia, they felt like a fragile offering, a symbol of something she wasn't sure she could trust. But to Ryan, they were part of Vanessa's plan, a plan designed to strip Sophia of everything she had left. That night, back at Vanessa's apartment, the two conspirators laid out their scheme. Ryan paced the room nervously, while Vanessa lounged on the couch, sipping wine. "She's starting to soften," Ryan said. "I could see it in her eyes. She wants to believe me." Vanessa smirked, swirling her glass. "Of course she does. That's her weakness. She's too forgiving. All we need is her signature. Once she signs those papers, she'll have nothing." Ryan hesitated. The brothers, they're watching her like hawks. If they suspect. Vanessa cut him off sharply. "Then we outsmart them. We make it look like she's agreeing to a reconciliation, but in reality, she'll be signing over her rights, her share of assets, even custody. I already know a lawyer who will make the documents airtight." Ryan frowned, doubt flickering across his face. "But what if she doesn't sign?" Vanessa leaned forward, her eyes glinting with malice. "Then you remind her who holds the power. You tell her that forgiveness comes with conditions. You use her love for that unborn baby. Make her believe signing is the only way to keep peace." Ryan exhaled shakily, the thought of holding power over Sophia filling him with twisted satisfaction. "So I trick her into signing away everything, and she won't even realize until it's too late." "Exactly," Vanessa purred. She set her glass down and touched his arm. "And once she's out of the way, you and I will have everything. Her brothers may be rich, but they can't fight if she willingly gives it all up." The following day, Ryan returned to the hospital, dressed neatly again, carrying not flowers this time, but a manila envelope tucked under his arm. He wore the same repentant mask, his voice dripping with sincerity. "Sophia," he said softly, "I spoke to a lawyer. He thinks we can reconcile, but he suggested some paperwork, just to show we're serious about moving forward." Sophia blinked, suspicion flickering in her tired eyes. "Paperwork?" Ryan smiled gently, pulling up a chair. "It's nothing complicated, just an agreement between us. A fresh start, no more fights, no more lies." He placed the envelope on the table by her bed. "Read it when you're ready. If you sign, it will mean we're both committed to making this work again." Her brothers weren't in the room at that moment. They had stepped out to speak with doctors. Sophia stared at the envelope, her heart torn between hope and fear. Could this really be a step toward healing, or was it another trap? Ryan leaned closer, his voice low and coaxing. "Do this for our family, Sophie. Do it for the baby." And as Sophia reached for the envelope with trembling hands, she didn't know the ink on those papers carried the power to erase her future. The envelope sat on Sophia's bedside table like a ticking bomb. Every time she glanced at it, her chest tightened. Ryan had spoken so softly, so convincingly that his words still echoed in her mind. "Do this for the baby. It's just a fresh start." Her brothers had warned her countless times that Ryan was a manipulator. Ethan had said it outright. "He'll try to trick you, Sophie. Don't fall for his act." Lucas had growled, "I'll break his neck if he comes near you again." Even Matthew, usually calm and calculating, had told her, "Never sign anything he gives you. Not a single page." And yet, when Sophia was alone, her mind wavered. She wanted to believe. She wanted so desperately to give her unborn child a family, a father, something better than brokenness. Her heart whispered what her mind knew was dangerous. Maybe Ryan really means it this time. Maybe people can change. That night, she couldn't sleep. The hum of hospital machines felt louder than ever. She turned the envelope over and over in her hands. What if Ryan was right? What if refusing him only made things worse? She imagined raising the baby alone, facing gossip, whispers, and pitying stares. She imagined Ryan fighting for custody, dragging her into court, painting her as unstable. Could she survive that battle? Her tears soaked the pillow as doubt consumed her. She whispered to her unborn child, her voice breaking. "I don't know what to do. Mommy's so scared. If I sign, maybe he'll calm down. Maybe he'll love us again. But if I don't, what if he takes you away from me?" The thought shattered her. The idea of losing her baby ripped through her heart more brutally than any bruise on her body. For the first time, she felt herself weaken, ready to surrender just to keep peace. Morning light seeped through the blinds when she finally tore the envelope open. Inside was a thick stack of papers, filled with legal jargon she'd barely understood. She flipped through quickly, her hands trembling. Words jumped out at her: custody, assets, transfer of rights. But her exhausted mind twisted them into something softer, something that almost sounded like reconciliation. Her pen lay on the tray beside her bed. She picked it up, her fingers trembling so violently that the pen nearly slipped from her grasp. She brought the tip close to the first signature line, her heart pounding in her ears. And just as the ink was about to touch the paper, the door burst open. Ethan strode in first, followed by Matthew and Lucas. Ethan's sharp eyes landed on the papers instantly. He froze. Then his voice thundered, "Sophia, put that pen down." Sophia jumped, startled. Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "But Ethan, what if this is the only way?" The brothers snatched the papers from her hands, and what they discovered in those documents made their blood run cold. Ethan's hands shook with fury as he flipped through the thick stack of papers Ryan had left. His eyes scanned line after line, each one twisting his expression darker. Matthew stepped closer, adjusting his glasses, his sharp mind already piecing the scheme together. Lucas hovered near Sophia, still gripping her hand, his face pale with fear at how close she had come to signing. "These aren't reconciliation papers," Ethan growled, his voice low but trembling with anger. "This is a trap." Matthew took the stack from him, flipping faster now, his trained eyes darting across the legal jargon. His background in finance and contracts made the deceit stand out like blood on white cloth. He tapped one page hard with his finger. "Here. This clause transfers full custody of the child to Ryan in the event of separation. And here, this one strips Sophia of any rights to property, even assets she brought into the marriage." Sophia's eyes widened. Her breath hitched painfully. "What? But—" "He said it was just for a fresh start," he said. Matthew shook his head, his voice cutting but calm. "No, Sophia, if you had signed this, you would have lost everything. Not just money, not just your home, he would have taken your child." Sophia covered her mouth, her body trembling. The pen she had almost pressed to the page rolled off the tray, clattering to the floor. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I almost gave him everything. I almost gave him my baby." Lucas exploded, slamming his fist against the wall so hard the nurses outside turned their heads. "I'm going to find him right now. I'll drag him back here and make him choke on these papers." Ethan grabbed Lucas's arm, holding him back. "No, we don't destroy him with fists, we destroy him with truth." His eyes burned as he turned to Matthew. "Tell me we can use this." Matthew nodded slowly, a dangerous glint in his gaze. "Absolutely. This isn't just deception. It's fraud. Any judge would see it for what it is. And if Vanessa's fingerprints are anywhere near these documents, we can tie her to the scheme too." Sophia sobbed, her hands clutching her belly. "Why would he do this? Why would the man I loved, the man I trusted, want to steal my child from me?" Ethan knelt beside her, his large hand resting gently on her shoulder. His voice softened. "Because he's no longer the man you loved. That man is gone, Sophie. What's left is weak, greedy, and poisoned by Vanessa. But hear me clearly, he will never take your baby. Not while we're here." Sophia's tears slowed, replaced by a fragile spark of relief. For the first time, she began to believe her brothers could actually save her. But even as the Bennetts laid their plans, across town Ryan and Vanessa sat smugly in a dimly lit bar, convinced their trick had nearly worked. Vanessa leaned back, her lips curling into a cruel smile. "She'll crack soon, she's too soft to resist." Ryan chuckled, raising his glass. "And once she does, it's all ours." What neither of them knew was that the very papers they forged would become the weapon that turned the world against them. The forged papers had been the final straw. For weeks, Sophia had lived in fear, afraid of Ryan's violence, ashamed of his betrayal, crushed under the weight of humiliation. She had cried in silence, convinced she was too weak to fight back. But as she listened to Matthew explain how Ryan had almost stolen her future with a single signature, something inside her shifted. Lying in that hospital bed, Sophia stared at her bruised reflection in the small mirror by the window. For the first time, she didn't see a victim. She saw a woman who had survived the unthinkable. She touched her swollen belly gently, whispering, "I won't let anyone take you away from me. Not him, not her, never again." Her brothers noticed the change almost immediately. Ethan was the first to speak. "Your strength is coming back," he said, his voice calm but proud. "Good, because we're going to need you for what comes next." Sophia lifted her chin, determination burning in her eyes. "I want to fight. I don't want to hide anymore." Lucas grinned fiercely, relief flooding his face. "That's my sister." Matthew slid a folder onto her lap. Inside were neatly organized documents, medical reports of her injuries, photographs of her bruises, and a timeline of Ryan's behavior. "This is the foundation," he explained. "If you're ready, we'll build the case with your testimony. But it means being strong in public. People will try to shame you. They'll say you're exaggerating. They'll twist your words." Sophia's hands trembled as she flipped through the folder, but she didn't look away. "Let them try," she said softly. "They can't take my truth from me." Her brothers exchanged a look. Pride mixed with awe. Sophia was no longer the fragile woman who had whispered apologies into her pillow at night. She was rising, piece by piece, into the fighter she was always meant to be. The next morning, she insisted on changing out of the hospital gown. With Lucas's help, she dressed in a simple blouse and pants. Her bruises were still visible, but instead of hiding them, she let them show. "These are not marks of shame," she said firmly when Ethan offered her a scarf. "These are proof of what he did." Her brothers stood by, silently moved. The sight of Sophia reclaiming her dignity filled them with even greater resolve. That afternoon, the four of them sat together at the hospital conference room, planning their next moves. Ethan spoke with lawyers. Matthew arranged private investigators to dig deeper into Ryan and Vanessa's finances. Lucas coordinated with Sophia's colleagues at the hospital, gathering statements from those who had witnessed her injuries. But the most powerful step came from Sophia herself. She wrote her statement, line by line, pouring out the truth she had once been too afraid to admit. Her hand shook, but her words were steady. When she finished, she looked at her brothers and said, "This isn't just my fight anymore. This is about every woman who thought she had to stay silent." And as she signed her name at the bottom of the page, Sophia unknowingly lit the first spark of the storm that would bring Ryan and Vanessa to their knees. The day Sophia signed her statement, the Bennetts moved from quiet preparation to open war. For weeks, Ryan and Vanessa had gloated in the shadows, certain they had trapped Sophia beyond escape. But they hadn't anticipated what three powerful brothers, armed with resources, influence, and unshakable loyalty, could do when pushed too far. Ethan spearheaded the public strategy. With his connections in New York media, he reached out to trusted journalists. "I want the truth out there," he said in his commanding voice. "Not gossip, not rumor, the facts. Domestic abuse, financial manipulation, fraud will bury them under their own lies." Matthew worked behind the scenes, sending private investigators deep into Ryan's financial history. Within days, the evidence piled up: unpaid debts, falsified tax forms, and transactions linking Ryan's auto shop to Vanessa's bar. "They've been funneling money together," Matthew explained during a late-night strategy meeting. "It's sloppy, but enough to prove collusion. Once this surfaces, their credibility collapses." Lucas handled the human side. He met with Sophia's coworkers, neighbors, and even the paramedics who had rushed her to the hospital. One by one, he gathered statements of what they had seen: the bruises, the screaming, the night she was carried out half-conscious. Lucas's fiery determination softened when he looked at Sophia. "Every witness we bring forward makes you stronger, Sophie. You're not alone anymore." Sophia herself was the heart of the counterattack. At first, the idea of speaking publicly terrified her. She had spent so long hiding her pain. But when Ethan arranged a discreet interview with a respected journalist, Sophia agreed. Sitting in front of the camera, she spoke with quiet courage. Her voice trembled at first, but soon steadied. She described the love she had given Ryan, the sacrifices she made, and the night he chose violence over trust. "He tried to take everything from me," she said, her hand resting protectively on her belly. "But he forgot one thing. I still have my truth, and I won't be silent anymore." When the interview aired, it spread like wildfire. Across California, people watched in shock. Social media erupted with outrage. Justice for Sophia began trending. Messages of support poured into the hospital, flooding her with strength she never imagined she could draw from strangers. Ryan and Vanessa, meanwhile, woke to chaos. Customers abandoned Ryan's auto shop. Vanessa's bar faced boycotts. Journalists camped outside their doors, demanding answers. Ryan shouted at the cameras, "She's lying, she's trying to ruin me." But his words rang hollow against the mountain of evidence and Sophia's heartfelt testimony. Vanessa tried to salvage the situation, parading herself in expensive dresses, giving interviews laced with false tears. But the public wasn't fooled. Every performance only deepened the disgust. Inside the hospital, Sophia watched the coverage with her brothers by her side. For the first time, she felt the tide turning. Her voice had been heard. Her pain had meaning. But Ethan's warning lingered in the room like a shadow. "Don't celebrate yet," he said grimly. "Cornered animals are the most dangerous." And true to his words, Ryan and Vanessa were already plotting their retaliation, a desperate move that would put Sophia in more danger than ever before. The backlash against Ryan Miller and Vanessa Lopez grew fiercer by the day. Headlines splashed their names across newspapers. Local mechanic accused of abusing pregnant wife. Television shows replayed Sophia's trembling but powerful testimony, her bruises visible, her words piercing. Public opinion had turned. Customers abandoned Ryan's auto shop, Vanessa's bar emptied overnight, and even old friends stopped answering their calls. But Ryan and Vanessa were not ready to surrender. Humiliation only fueled their rage. In the dim back room of Vanessa's bar, the two sat together, plotting in whispers as the neon sign outside flickered like a dying heartbeat. "They're destroying me," Ryan snarled, slamming his fist onto the table. "My business, my reputation, it's all gone because of her and those damn brothers of hers." Vanessa's eyes narrowed, her voice cold and deliberate. "Then we destroy her first. She's too confident now, too bold. If we break her in public, no one will believe her again. We need to humiliate her, to make her look like the liar we say she is." Ryan frowned, leaning closer. "How?" Vanessa slid a folder across the table. Inside were photographs, doctored images, forged receipts, fabricated text messages. "We plant these. Make it look like Sophia was unfaithful. Make it look like she had a secret life behind his back. Once this spreads, sympathy will vanish. She'll be the one they shame." Ryan's lips curled into a bitter smile. "And her brothers won't be able to protect her from that." The next morning, a storm of rumors exploded online. Fake screenshots circulated, claiming Sophia had been exchanging messages with another man. Forged receipts suggested expensive hotel stays. The lies spread fast, fueled by gossip blogs and anonymous accounts clearly funded by Vanessa's connections. Sophia first saw the smear campaign when a nurse hesitantly showed her a headline. Was the nurse a liar all along? Her heart plummeted. No, this isn't true," she cried, clutching the papers with trembling hands. "I've never." Ethan tore the article from her grasp, his face thunderous. "Don't look at this trash. It's fabricated. We'll expose it." But the damage had begun. Patients whispered when Sophia walked the hospital halls. Strangers online left cruel comments under her interview video. Maybe she deserved it, some wrote. Maybe she lied. Each word was like another knife twisting inside her. Lucas paced furiously, his rage barely contained. "They're trying to destroy her all over again. I'll track down whoever's spreading this filth and shut them down." Matthew, though calmer, was just as fierce. "They've made their move. Good. Now we know their game. But we'll need more than anger. We'll need proof these lies came from Ryan and Vanessa." Sophia sat silently, her hands over her belly, tears streaking down her face. She had fought so hard to reclaim her voice, and now they were trying to steal it again. But this time, something inside her refused to break. She wiped her tears and looked up at her brothers, her voice shaking but steady. "Then let's fight harder. I won't let them win. Not now. Not ever." And just as the Bennetts vowed to strike back, a mysterious witness stepped forward. Someone who had seen everything, and whose testimony could destroy Ryan and Vanessa once and for all. The smear campaign cut deeply, but Sophia refused to collapse this time. Her brothers stood firmly by her side, each promising to tear down Ryan and Vanessa's lies. Yet even as they strategized, it seemed the tide of public opinion wavered, poisoned by the fake evidence circulating online. For the first time since her testimony aired, Sophia feared the truth might not be enough. Then, one evening, as the Bennetts gathered in the hospital's private lounge, a knock came at the door. Ethan rose immediately, his body tense, ready for confrontation. But when the door opened, it wasn't Ryan or Vanessa. It was a woman none of them recognized. She was middle-aged, her eyes tired but resolute. She clutched a worn purse close to her chest. "Are you Sophia Bennett?" she asked softly. Sophia hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, who are you?" The woman stepped inside, closing the door behind her. My name is Marisol Vega. I used to work for Vanessa Lopez. I was her assistant at the bar for 3 years. Her voice shook, but her gaze held steady. And I can prove everything. The room fell silent. Ethan leaned forward, his tone sharp. What exactly can you prove? Marisol's hands trembled as she pulled out a folder from her purse. Inside were photographs, copies of messages, and handwritten notes. Vanessa asked me to forge those documents, the fake texts, the hotel receipts. She made me help create them. I quit the day she showed me. I couldn't stomach destroying an innocent woman's life. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. You saw her do it? Marisol nodded. I saw everything. She laughed about it. She said, once people think Sophia's a liar, Ryan can take the baby and the brothers can't save her. Her eyes glistened with tears. I stayed quiet because I was afraid. Vanessa knows dangerous people. But after I saw your interview, Miss Bennett, after I saw your courage, I couldn't keep silent anymore. You don't deserve this. Lucas sprang to his feet, pacing the room with fiery energy. We've got them. With her testimony, we've got them cornered. Matthew carefully examined the folder, his eyes scanning each piece of evidence. These documents are damning. Combined with Marisol's statement, they'll obliterate Vanessa's credibility. He looked up, his calm expression sharpened into something fierce. This is the break we needed. Ethan stepped closer to Marisol, his voice steady but intense. If you testify, Vanessa will come after you. Are you prepared for that? Marisol straightened her shoulders. She's already ruined too many lives. I won't let her ruin another. I'll stand in court, on television, anywhere you need me. She can't silence me anymore. Sophia reached out, taking the woman's trembling hands into her own. Tears filled her eyes, but this time, they were tears of gratitude. Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance to fight back. For the first time, hope surged through the room like a rising tide. With Marisol's testimony, the lies could be dismantled piece by piece. But just as the Bennetts prepared to use this new weapon, Vanessa discovered Marisol's betrayal, and she swore she would silence her before she could speak. The Bennetts knew the battle couldn't end in silence. To truly destroy Ryan and Vanessa's grip, the truth needed to be revealed on the biggest stage possible. That stage arrived in the form of the annual Beverly Hills Business Gala, a glittering event where CEOs, investors, and media figures gathered under one roof. It was the perfect place to expose the lies before the eyes of the powerful and the public alike. Ethan arranged their entrance with military precision. We don't just walk in, he told his siblings. We make a statement. This is where we show the world who Sophia really is. On the night of the gala, Sophia arrived with her brothers by her side. She wore a simple but elegant navy dress, her bruises still faintly visible, but no longer hidden. Instead of shame, she carried them as proof. Her hand rested gently on her stomach, the symbol of both her pain and her strength. Gasps filled the room as she walked in, whispers rippling through the crowd. Everyone had seen the headlines. Now they saw the woman herself. Ryan and Vanessa were already there, dressed to impress. Ryan wore a crisp black suit, trying to project confidence, while Vanessa dazzled in a sparkling gown, her arm hooked proudly through his. Their smiles faltered the moment they spotted Sophia and the Bennetts striding toward the center of the room. Lucas leaned toward his sister, whispering, "Ready to end this?" Sophia nodded, her heart pounding. "Ready." Ethan took the microphone when the hosts opened the floor for announcements. The room fell silent as his commanding voice echoed. Tonight is not about business. Tonight is about truth. He gestured to Sophia, who stepped forward slowly, her voice trembling but clear. For months, I lived in silence, she said, her gaze sweeping the glittering crowd. I was beaten, betrayed, and humiliated by the man who vowed to love me, and when I finally found the strength to speak, he and his mistress tried to destroy me with lies. Gasps erupted, cameras clicked. Vanessa's smile tightened into a snarl, but Sophia continued, stronger now. I am not alone. I have my family, I have proof, and tonight I have a witness who can confirm everything. At that cue, Matthew signaled toward the back. Marisol Vega walked onto the stage, her steps steady despite the tension. The crowd murmured as she took the microphone. I worked for Vanessa Lopez, she said firmly. I helped forge the false evidence used to smear Sophia. Vanessa ordered me to do it. I kept silent out of fear, but no more. She held up documents, projected instantly onto the large screen behind her. Here are the originals. This is the truth. The ballroom erupted into chaos. Reporters shouted questions. Guests turned toward Ryan and Vanessa with disgust. Ryan's face drained of color. Vanessa's composure cracked as she hissed, "You traitor." Sophia stood tall, tears glistening in her eyes but her voice steady. "You tried to break me, but tonight I take back everything you tried to steal." And as security moved toward Ryan and Vanessa, a final shocking twist was about to erupt, one that would seal their downfall forever. The ballroom was in chaos. Reporters pushed forward, microphones raised, cameras flashing like lightning. Guests gasped, whispers rising into a storm. On the stage, Marisol's testimony and the projected documents left no room for doubt. Ryan and Vanessa's lies had been laid bare. Security closed in as Vanessa's mask finally shattered. She lunged toward Marisol, her voice shrill. "You think you can ruin me? You're nothing." But two guards grabbed her arms, pulling her back as she kicked and screamed. Her glittering gown no longer looked glamorous. It looked like the costume of a desperate woman exposed. Ryan, meanwhile, stood frozen. His bravado evaporated under the weight of hundreds of condemning eyes. He stammered, It's all fake. She's lying. Sophia's lying." But his words fell flat. The forged documents, the witness testimony, the evidence Matthew had gathered, all of it painted the truth clearly. His denial only made him look smaller, weaker. Ethan stepped forward, his voice booming through the microphone. "This is the man who beat his pregnant wife, who tried to steal her child, and who thought he could silence her with lies. Not tonight. Not ever again." The crowd erupted in applause, cheers mixing with shouts of outrage at Ryan and Vanessa. Lucas, fists clenched, leaned toward his sister. "They're finished." Police officers entered the ballroom moments later, called by the Bennetts in advance. Vanessa shrieked as cuffs clicked around her wrists. Ryan resisted, shouting, "You can't do this to me! I'm her husband!" But the officers ignored him, reading his rights as they pulled him away in front of everyone. Sophia watched with tears streaming down her face. Not tears of pain, but of release. For the first time, she felt the crushing weight lift from her chest. She wasn't the broken woman lying on a hospital floor anymore. She was standing, strong, surrounded by truth and justice. Reporters swarmed, cameras flashing brighter. One called out, "Sophia, do you have a message for other women watching tonight?" She took the microphone, her hand steady, her voice carried through the hall, clear and unwavering. "Yes, never stay silent. Never believe that you are weak. I thought I had to endure, that I had to hide my pain to protect my child. But the truth is, speaking out is the only way to protect what we love. To every woman suffering in silence, your voice matters. You are not alone." The applause that followed shook the ballroom. Strangers, allies, even the most hardened business leaders stood, clapping and cheering for her courage. Later that night, as the gala wound down and Ryan and Vanessa were driven away in police cars, Sophia stood with her brothers outside beneath the California stars. Ethan placed a hand on her shoulder. "It's over, Sophie. You're free." Sophia smiled through her tears, her hand resting gently on her belly. "Not just free," she whispered. "Stronger. For me. For my baby." And as the Bennetts embraced, the world now knew the truth. Sophia Bennett was no victim. She was a survivor, a fighter, and a mother who had reclaimed her life. So that's it. Our story has come to an end. And if you're still here with me right now, my friend, that means something in this journey touched your heart in a way that words alone can't explain. Sophia's story wasn't just about betrayal or revenge. It was about survival, dignity, and the courage to rise when everything seemed broken. Life has a way of throwing storms at us. Sometimes those storms come from the very people we trusted most. But here's the truth. Pain does not define us. What defines us is how we choose to stand back up. As Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Sophia discovered that strength the moment she refused to stay silent. Her scars became her testimony, her tears became her courage. And with the support of her family, she proved that no lie, no cruelty, no betrayal can destroy the truth. That's something we can all carry into our own lives. Maybe you've been hurt. Maybe you've felt abandoned. Remember, you are not weak. You are not alone. And sometimes speaking your truth is the first step toward freedom. I want you to really sit with that for a moment. Because if you've stayed with me until the very end, maybe it's because a part of you needed this reminder. That your voice matters. That your dignity matters. That healing is possible, even after the darkest nights. Now, before we part ways, I have just one request. If Sophia's story moved you, if it gave you even a spark of strength, then please, hit the like button, share this video with someone who might need it, and subscribe to our channel. Together, we can keep telling stories that remind us of the courage within us all. Because in the end, as Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it, that matters. And like Sophia, may we all learn to react with courage.